Welcome to Still Kicking, the show that highlights senior centers around the state of Kentucky and investigates the lives and achievements of the seniors they serve. I'm your host, Jason Smallwood. We're here in Fayette County, home of the Fayette County Senior Citizen Center, one of the newest and largest centers in the state. Come on inside for a personal tour and to meet some of the wonderful people who attend this center. Welcome back to Still Kicking. We're here with Catherine Jackson, who has traveled the world, worked for Train for more than 38 years, and has been attending the Senior Center here in Fayette County for more than 15 years.
Correct.
Thank you very much for coming in. It's very nice to meet you.
It's very good to meet you too.
So, Catherine, are you from Lexington originally or from Kentucky originally?
I have always lived in Kentucky. I was born in Harrison County, but mainly grew up in Grant County. And I went to school in Dry Ridge and moved to Lexington in 1960. And I love Lexington.
Yeah, so you've been in Lexington the majority of your life for a long time.
Yes.
And what year was you born in?
1935.
See, I always ask what year. I never ask the age. People can do the math and figure that out on their own.
That's right.
So when you were going to school when you were a kid, what was school life like for you? Was you a good student?
I was an average student.
What was the subjects that you liked the most in school?
Okay, I loved math and spelling, and I'm still a good speller.
Good. Those are the hardest two things in school usually for most people. It's interesting that that was your best subjects.
Right.
So thinking back still in your childhood, what would you say is the earliest thing you remember? What's your earliest memory?
Well, I had a little brother and a little sister, but I could remember when he was little, so I was probably 3.5 years of age, and we was all playing on the bed, bouncing on the bed. I remember that. That may be my earliest memories.
Yeah, that's impressive.
But sure.
A lot of people don't remember until 5 or something when they go to school or something like that. So that's impressive. So you appear to be in very good shape and physically active. Have you done things in your life that promoted that?
Yes. I was big in square dancing. I started square dancing in about 1980 and danced for many years and loved line dancing. And at square dances, it led me to being a line dance leader at the square dances. And I also clogged. I clogged for about 8 years, and with the clogging group, we would go to nursing homes and clog. And so I used to get a lot of exercise.
Yeah. That's good. Do you still cut the rug every so often?
I wish I could say that, but I broke my hip in 2004, and I was afraid to start doing a lot of jumping up and down and turning and spinning. So we try to dance every New Year's Eve.
Yeah.
And keep up a little bit on our dancing.
Good. I'm sure there's been many happy moments in your lifetime. What's one in particular that really sticks out, like a really happy moment for you?
Well, I have a son that was in the Navy for 34 years, and he invited me to join him in Hawaii in year 2000, and I'm thinking it was 2001. And I was able to get on the ship and ride from Hawaii to San Diego, California on the ship with him.
Oh, wow.
And that was a highlight of my life.
Yeah, so it was like a working Navy ship, so you got to see all the day-to-day stuff.
He was on the USS Bonhomme Richard ship. It was a amphibious ship. And they had a lot of activities planned for the tourists that was on the ship that day.
Wow.
We was on there about 7 days.
So, and you had a long career. You worked for Train.
Correct.
For, is it 38 and a half years?
Yes.
So what did you do different jobs there? Was you pretty much doing one job?
No, I was in several jobs. I got promoted several different times, stepping up each time. And I'm proud to say that I worked in the engineering department for the last years of my career with a bunch of nice people. And I always had good bosses. And, I love my time spent at Train.
Yeah, having good supervisors and stuff makes it tremendously easier.
Absolutely.
So what was you doing in the engineering department?
I did all the product changes and the drawing changes in the computer system.
So you're a little computer savvy, at least with those programs.
Yes, and I still love a computer.
Yeah, good. So 38 and a half years, that's a long time. Was it hard to transition out of going to work every day? And
well, at the very end, I was getting a little yancy, wanting to come home and do projects at home. But I worked as long as I could, and then I love retirement too.
I would imagine so. And you've been involved with the Senior Center for the past 15 years.
Correct. and it is a most wonderful place. They have so many programs and activities here, and I've took part in a lot of them. And our program manager, Sean Wright here, he's just a super people person.
Yeah.
Always smiling, always willing to stop and talk to you. And I've took a lot of trips with the senior center. We went to Hawaii, and we've been to Alaska, and we've been on a lot of day trips.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a wonderful place to be able to go to. I wished all seniors could come here.
Mm-hmm. So I guess it was an Alaskan cruise
Yes.
that you did. So what was the best part of the Alaskan cruise?
Oh, the cruise ship.
You like not the sights, it was the ship.
After all of the land touring,
Sure.
Which was great, and we got to go into a lot of the towns. The cruise ship would stop, and we could get off of the ship and walk into town and actually shop. Now, I loved that.
Yeah.
And then we get back on the cruise ship, and it was just a wonderful trip. Every trip with the seniors is going to be a good trip.
Yeah, yeah. So are you still married?
Yes.
So how long have you been married?
26 years this year.
26 years. So was that your first marriage?
No.
Okay, I was going to calculating the math. It was probably not likely. So you've been married a couple times?
I have. I was married and have 4 children, and I have 3 boys and 1 girl.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, they're all grown and
Kind of doing their thing.
and 3 boys all live out of state.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I have 2 in Florida and 1 in Alabama, and my daughter lives in Bourbon County.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So do they come in for holidays, or is it kind of a rare occasion you guys get together?
It's almost a rare occasion anymore that we do get together.
Yeah. Well, it's hard when you got people kind of spread out everywhere
Right.
for everybody to be able to get together. So what's your plans for the future? What you got anything that you're wanting to do, or?
No, I'm pretty much settled. I'm a homebody. I love to stay home and just enjoy life.
Yeah, so you're content.
Yes, I am content.
Good, good. Well, it's been a pleasure to get to meet you
Oh,
and to
you
get to talk
too.
to you. Thank you for agreeing to come and talk to us.
It's been a pleasure.
Good. Yeah, it wasn't too difficult.
It wasn't too hard on me.
So, again, it was a pleasure, and we'll be right back. Welcome back to Still Kicking. We're here with Barbara Welsh, who was adopted at 4 years old, started her career late in life, and dedicated the majority of her life to the raising of her children. Good to have you here, Barbara. It's nice to meet you.
It's nice to meet you too.
So do you prefer Barb or Barbara?
Barb.
Barb, okay. So, was you born in Kentucky, or?
No. Actually, I was born in Akron, Ohio.
Okay.
And my parents adopted me in Akron.
Okay.
So-
And then eventually you managed to
Well,
move.
eventually my father took a new job and we moved to Illinois in the Chicago area, a suburb of Chicago called Clarendon Hills.
Mm-hmm.
And that's actually where I met my husband. We went to grade school together.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
That's interesting. So was you together all through school, or did you move and then just kind of meet up again?
No, I mean, actually, we spent growing up in high school and all of that. I dated other people, much to my husband's disgust. But anyway, I did. And then finally, after about 10 years, he talked me into marrying him. So I said, okay, yeah, sure. We got married.
That's funny.
And been together ever since. It'll be 53 years.
53 years.
Yeah.
Okay. And what year was you born in?
I was born in 1943.
In your lifetime, who do you think influenced you the most? Who would be that one person that molded you into the way you think, the way you feel?
Probably my grandmother.
Your grandmother?
My grandmother. My grandmother married when she was 13 years old. She never finished school. It was a case of economic need. Her father had passed away. And so therefore, she only went through to the 5th grade, and she was the smartest woman I ever met. And she taught me a love of reading, and that she had a tremendous influence on me. She really was. She was quite some lady. I miss her still.
Well, that's interesting that, only 5th grade education, especially way back, and still have that love for reading.
Oh, she loved to read, and like I say, she's the smartest lady I ever knew. As a matter of fact, she's the one who told me to marry my husband. If she had not approved of him, he wouldn't have had a shot in the world. But she said, he's a good man. You better marry him. So I did.
You think he said, put her up to saying that?
He may have, knowing Jack, he may have, but I can't prove it for sure, and they never admit to it, even if it was
Oh,
true.
yeah. So a lot of people talk about what's a good life and things like that. For you, what is a good life?
What is a good life? Gosh, that's a question. I think a good life is when you get to spend your time with someone you really care about, and you get to see your children grow up. And I think the nicest experience of all of that was several years ago, I happened to be in my kitchen doing something, and my daughter was with her younger child, and I heard her say the same things I used to tell her. So I feel like it's passing down in the generations, and that's a wonderful feeling. It truly is.
Yeah. So it sounds like a good life for you is family and that
Absolutely.
connection.
Absolutely. I always told my kids, I love them, they're my children, but I'd really like to like them. That if you didn't have to spend time with them, you would enjoy just spending time with them.
Sure.
And I can honestly say that's the way I feel about my kids and my grandkids.
Good. If you turn on the TV today, you constantly see problems
Oh, my
and
goodness.
world problems. If you could pick one thing and you can just fix it,
Okay.
what would be the one thing world problem you'd want to solve?
I think I would like to see the respect come back between people. I may not agree with you and what you're saying, but still you're a person, and I think you're due respect. I kind of feel, particularly with politics lately, that if you don't agree with someone, you write them off. And they may have a point or two. I think that's probably the biggest. We don't respect each other's rights to think differently.
Yeah.
So I would
Okay.
say that's it.
Good. And by fixing that, you fix a ton of other problems in itself.
Absolutely,
So,
I think, yeah.
so it's instead of just fixing one thing like bombs or what have you.
Right.
Yeah.
That way we can sit down and talk with each other. It doesn't mean we're always going to agree.
Exactly.
But we can respect another person's opinion
Yeah.
and try to see their point of view. Okay?
So throughout life, you've had many roles.
Yes.
What would you say your one purpose has been? If you had to pick, what was your purpose for being on this earth?
Oh boy, these are tough questions. I wasn't expecting this kind of stuff. I guess to try to to raise good kids.
Yeah.
Just, raise them right and hope. You try to teach them. There were times I didn't think they were paying attention, but they're now adults. They're functioning adults. I'm very proud of them. They're doing well in their life. They have good families. Can't ask for much more than that.
No.
Really.
No.
You really can't.
Yeah. So good. That's a good answer. I think a person's purpose should be to produce more people that has a purpose and does good things for
Right.
people. So when we first started talking, you said you was adopted at 4.5 years old.
Yeah, I was 4.5 years old.
Do you remember that?
Parts of it, yes, I do. My mother was an only child, and my father was an only child, and they hated it. They absolutely hated it. Well, my mother had my older brother, and unfortunately, because of some problems, she was never able to have another child. And since were not happy as only children, they assumed that my brother would not be happy as an only child. I think at times he thought differently about that, but that was their opinion. And so they decided they would go ahead and adopt. And my mother said, well, if we're going to adopt, let's get one that can walk and talk and dress herself, you know, and those kinds of things. So it was really unusual in that time to get an older children. Most everyone wanted a baby. But I was very fortunate. The Lord must have been looking up after me because I got two wonderful parents. So I do remember parts of it. What was funny was I was in a orphanage and sometimes in a foster home. And the idea of a daddy didn't seem to resonate with me. I was a Catholic Charities baby, so I was raised basically by nuns.
Yeah.
So when my mother used to call my father hubby, and for some reason, I kind of thought that was his name. So the neighbors thought it was hysterical when I would say, where's my hubby? And they'd all kind of look around. And it was my dad. It took me a while to figure out I was supposed to call him Daddy, you know. But anyway, that was an amusing part of it anyway.
Yeah. Yeah, just young enough to not have a full grasp of everything going on, but old enough to still
Right. And
struggle.
you have to remember, too, if you're raised in an orphanage where there really aren't any mommies or daddies, that's kind of a different concept,
Yeah.
you know, to grasp on. So, yeah, he was hubby. And then the neighbors would bribe me to call him hubby. And so he was not happy about that part of it. But anyway,
Yeah.
I learned to call him Daddy.
And you were married in 65.
1965.
How old was you when you got married?
I was about 4 weeks shy of 22. I was a late bloomer for my generation.
Well, yeah, a lot of people's getting married at 16, 17,
right
18.
out of high school.
Yeah. And you said you've been married for 52?
Will be 53 years come August.
Oh, okay.
Assuming I keep them, you know, for this year.
Well, yeah. It sounds like he's probably persuasive.
Yeah.
So he's probably got a good shot.
Right. Well, I always laugh and say every 5 years we should renegotiate the contract,
Yeah.
you know, just to change some of the little things. And he's always so nice on that 5th year. I just don't have the heart, you know, to pull the plug. So, yeah, we've been married a long time. We've grown up together.
Yeah.
Really.
Well, I mean, you've known him since you were a
I
kid.
was in grade school
Yeah.
when we met.
And so you guys had kids, and you decided to go to work after the kids went to college.
Right, yeah.
So you started out later in
Right.
life when you started working, and you worked as an insurance underwriter.
Yes, I started out originally as a branch officer in an insurance company, Life and Health, actually. And then I was an underwriter for workers' comp, which was always interesting. I learned
Yeah.
how things worked, you know, except I used to get in trouble because my boss and I would visit certain work sites trying to see what was going on, and he'd go talk to the managers, and I'd be out in the shop talking to the man, because to be honest, they know what the job is, really.
Yeah.
The guys at the front office may or may not, you know. So he would always find me up on a ladder talking to somebody, or doing, you know, whatever. But learning about the business, I learned a lot there, and I ended up at underwriting surplus and excess lines, insurance.
When you were doing the underwriting, what types of things were you doing underwriting for?
Okay, excess and surplus lines is actually risks that standard insurance carriers will not take. Maybe because it's inherently dangerous, like coal mining, junk salvage yards, those kinds of things. Or sometimes it was a case where they'd had a lot of losses and nobody seemed to be able to figure out why. And so that made an insurance, they're in the business to make money, not pay out claims, you know. So it was always very interesting. You never knew what the next phone call would bring. Anything from, well, I insured a tank that was on display somewhere. Just strange stuff, but I learned immensely. There are all kinds of very interesting ways to make a living. Let's
Yeah.
put it that way.
Yeah, so you almost have to become an investigator,
Right, absolutely.
and be inquisitive and not care to ask questions.
Yeah, and you better know what you were insuring, because if something went up, the insurance company would want to talk to you about why you insured that. So
Yeah.
you better have some good reasons.
Yeah. And so your kids are grown.
Yes.
It sounds like you pretty much invested yourself in your kids. You know,
Absolutely, yes.
120%.
And the payoff was 6 grandchildren.
There you go.
Yes, that was my payoff. And of course, they're grown now too. I don't know where the time has gone. The 2 oldest are juniors at UK.
Mm-hmm.
I've got a freshman at UK next year. I've got a senior at Dunbar High School here in Lexington. I've got a freshman at Dunbar High School. And then we have the 3-year-old, who was a surprise, but a wonderful surprise, and he was worth the wait. He also runs the entire family. Everybody
yeah.
does what Tyler wants. You know, that's it. There's no discussion. So
Sounds like fun.
it is.
Well, thank you for coming in and talking to us. It was
Well,
a pleasure
thank
to
you.
get to meet you
It was a pleasure to meet you too.
and find out about your history and your work. I had no idea about insurance underwriting.
Yeah, most people go, huh?
Yeah. Well,
But
it sounds like it's interesting because you get to see the different kinds of work and then people trying to manipulate
Right.
and get things too. So I imagine it can be frustrating, you know,
It can be. It
but
can be.
still it's gives you good stories to go, I can't believe this guy did this.
Right.
You know?
Yes, yes. It's amazing some of the things people will do. But it was very nice meeting you.
Thank you. And we'll be right back. Welcome back to Still Kicking. We're here with James Grange, who worked for 28 years for IBM, then decided to open a liquor store, which he ran for an additional 27 years.
Correct.
Very successful businessman.
Well, I don't know about that, but go on.
Well, James, it's good to have you here with us.
We survived for 27 years to be more accurate.
Well, if you survived for 27 years, that is successful.
Okay. All right.
You didn't go out after the first month, right?
Correct.
So, are you from Kentucky originally?
I was born in Arkansas.
Okay.
I went to 5 different high schools.
Was that like, that's
Like every January, we relocated.
was you part of a military family or?
No, my father was a plant manager, and they transferred him almost annually at that point in time. Okay.
Wow.
As far as where, I was born in Arkansas. I went to La Crosse, Wisconsin. I basically spent my grade school years there. And then the 6th grade was the beginning. I came to Lexington, Kentucky, and stayed here for about 3 years. Then I went to Eastern Shore, Maryland. I went to Defiance, Ohio. I went back to La Crosse, Wisconsin. And then eventually I came back down here to Lexington, Kentucky, and I've been here ever since.
Okay. So how long have you been at Lexington this time?
This trip,
Yeah.
60 years.
And what year was you born in?
38.
38. Okay. So that was a little bit ago, not too far back.
About almost 80.
Yeah. What's your earliest memory? I imagine you probably got.
You
some.
really want to know that because you're not going to believe it.
I want to know.
I can remember Christmas when I was 2.
Oh wow.
I remember the presents that I got.
What was the best present?
The one I really remember is, and they haven't been in existence for probably 70 years, and I don't even remember the name, but they were little men, wooden men, that they had little indentations in their shoulders, and they had projections on their hands and their feet, and you could stack them like a bunch of cheerleaders, if you will.
Oh wow.
And that's one I remember because you could use your imagination, do what you want. And the other one I remember was, I haven't seen one of these for years either, but it's tin, okay, it's metal, and it's got like a round swimming pool, if you will,
Yeah.
and a pump. You can sit there and pump water all day long and make a mess.
That was a toy that was getting you used to working.
Yeah, I mean, But those are the ones that I remember. And I remember the house we lived in. I remember some occurrences there. I remember when I was introduced to cornbread.
Was that in Kentucky?
No, I'm still in Arkansas.
Okay.
I was 2, remember?
All right.
And we had this little girl down the street that I got invited to lunch one day. And I'd never been to anyone else's house for lunch. Okay, so this was a rather momentous occasion.
Yeah.
For me anyway. And they had cornbread. And I had never eaten cornbread before, and I fell in love with it right there, and I still do.
In your lifetime, who would you say has influenced you the most?
I'd say my parents. I have to give them credit.
Yeah.
They were opposites. My mother let me get by with things she shouldn't have, and that's probably one reason I didn't buckle down, okay? My father, on the other hand, he was not stern, but all he had to do is look at me.
Yeah.
You understand?
Mm-hmm.
And I knew I was in trouble and that I better listen. But he didn't do that often.
Yeah.
Maybe not often enough. But the one thing I learned from both of them is tolerance of other people.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we, as a society, are missing that. I don't judge other people. I may have an opinion of them,
Yeah.
but I don't judge them. There's a difference.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't deal with people without observing and reacting, etc.
Sure.
But regardless, you tolerate them,
Mm-hmm.
okay? And you don't create vendettas, etc., because it's pointless.
Yeah.
Totally pointless.
Mm-hmm.
Gets you nowhere,
Yep.
and can only hurt them.
Sure.
So why bother?
Exactly. So you said you went to 5 different high schools.
I did.
How hard is that? I mean, it seems like.
Well, it's not necessarily that it is difficult, but it makes you a loner because you are never in a clique.
Yeah.
You're always the outsider, okay? And that makes you independent. And I really think, in some ways, I'm better off for it.
Yeah.
In other ways, it gets me in trouble.
Yeah.
Because I have my own mind, right or wrong.
Yeah.
But I do recognize that I can be wrong. You just have to point it out to me.
Well, that's probably everybody.
but at least I will listen.
Yeah.
Okay? I'm not closed-minded, and that tends to give you headaches.
Sure.
But anyway.
And so you went through school and everything. You went to college, got your degree, and worked for
That
IBM.
took me 13 years.
So, what did you do with IBM? What was your primary functions?
Well, it kind of depends upon which part of the timing you're referring to, but early on I started as a quality inspector on the assembly line, and during my job interview I mentioned my electronics leanings.
Mm-hmm.
So I give a bunch of credit to the gentleman that interviewed me. He looked for a better place for me. So I only stayed there less than 2 months
Yeah. before
they transferred me to a different department as a electronic technician. I mean, that's unheard of. You usually go into the military to acquire that, but I wasn't very good at it, but I was developing. But anyway, as a result of that, everything kind of went to the point where I needed more formal education, so I took a leave. And subsequent to that, I ended up being an electrical engineer. My time was spent designing test equipment for the products that we were manufacturing. Now, bear in mind, this is a typewriter plant.
Mm-hmm.
Howsoever, everyone thinks of a typewriter as this. Well, we were also making typewriters that were early vintage of computers, the console, and basically the computer made the typewriter type.
Yeah.
So we had to have equipment that would test that, and we also, as the years went on, we had different products, and every time we had a new product, we had to come up with new test equipment. So
Yeah.
that's what I was doing.
Okay.
That's what I did.
So you're the.
And that led me into getting into computers a little bit. So
Yeah.
at the end, it was all computer controlled.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So you had to adapt over the years.
Well, I mean, times change.
Yeah.
And if anyone had told me early on where we were going, or for that matter, where we are with computers, I've told them they're nuts, because you've got a cell phone.
Mm-hmm.
You have more computing power in that cell phone than the biggest mainframe I could think of 40 years ago.
Yep. Yep.
I mean, it's just amazing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I can recall designing, well, part of my job was we were designing ships, okay? This is printed circuits, okay? And one of the programs we had to run to do this design work required 512 kilobytes of memory, which, in order to get that much contiguous memory, they had to put fences up so create that big of a chunk of memory.
Yeah.
I mean, and nowadays, half a kilobyte? I mean,
Yeah.
half a megabyte. Excuse me.
Sure.
So we've come a long way.
Yeah.
I
Definitely.
mean, the concept of a terabyte would just
Blow your mind back then.
impossible.
Yeah.
You're out of your gourd.
Yeah. Well, and the amazing thing is 10 years from now, we're going to be thinking things are impossible. That.
Well, we've come from. Actually, we've gotten so complicated that we need a computer just to keep up with the computers.
Pretty much.
Really? I mean, we're already there.
Yeah. You
It-
did IBM for 28 years
Yep.
and then decided to open a liquor store.
Well, we kind of backed into that. It wasn't really a decision. The fact that I was early exit from IBM, they had a window plan, and then I jumped through it. But I had to do something.
Yeah.
Okay, so this opportunity came along, and that's what we went with.
Yeah. And
I kind of wish I'd gone to work for Toyota, driving cars out to the parking lot, but that's not what I did.
Yeah. Yeah. So you did the liquor store for 27 years.
Yes,
So did somebody else in the family take it over? Did you sell at the
I
end?
sold it. I just liquidated it,
Yeah.
so to speak.
Yeah. So was you up front, or you behind the scenes guy at the liquor store? Like if somebody walked in. was you the
Totally.
guy?
Okay, when you say up front, yes. Yeah, that was an experience. You think about it, it's almost a third of my life there.
Mm-hmm.
So, I have some memories.
Yeah, it's a long time to run a business, especially a business that struggles at times. And
What do you mean at times?
well, I guess maybe you struggled the whole way, but still, yeah, you stuck with it.
I don't give up easily.
Yeah.
I'm stubborn.
Well, there's
Some people call it tenacity. I'll call it stupid stubbornness.
well,
There's a fine line between the two.
true, but one way or the other, you made a goal and you stuck with it and you saw it through, and
Well, I don't know if I made the goal, but I did stick with it.
yeah, yeah,
Anywho, yeah, it's been interesting.
yeah,
Interesting life.
yeah. Well, thanks for coming in and
Well, you're most
talking to
welcome.
us.
I've enjoyed this.
But yeah, you've done things in your life. You've had struggles. You've whether it's stubborn or not, you went through it, which is commendable. But no, thanks again for coming in.
You're more than welcome.
Definitely a pleasure.
And I enjoyed it as well.
Good, good. like I said, it's always good to get to talk to somebody that's candid, doesn't care to joke around a little bit, has done lots of things.
What you see is what you get.
Yeah, thank you. And we'll be right back. Welcome back to Still Kicking. We're here with Manola Simmons Ward, who worked for a college for more than 30 years, has traveled to the Caribbean, raised 2 children and put them through college as a divorced mother, and so much more.
Yes, yes.
Manola, it is a pleasure to get to meet you, especially somebody that's as accomplished as you are and
Thank
has done
you.
so many things.
Thank you.
It sounds like you've had a really full life. I couldn't even remember everything.
Yes.
So, are you from Kentucky originally?
I was originally born in Harlan, Kentucky, southeastern Kentucky.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
And then kind of bounced around?
Bounced around.
A little bit?
Yeah, left Kentucky when I was 19 and came back in 2003.
Okay. And what year was you born in?
1944.
1944. Okay. Not to be bleak or anything,
Yes.
if you could leave one message for your children after you're gone, what would you want them to know?
If I could leave one message, I would like for you to be as kind to people as I have been. I would like you to take my big heart and put it in your heart, because to me, helping others has been my whole life. And I've always put others before I put myself.
Yeah.
And that's what I'd like my kids to do. And it's not important how much money you have or how many houses or cars. It's what's inside that counts.
Sure. Yeah, that's a, couldn't ask for anything more.
Yes.
Anything more. And I'm sure that would be a touching message for
Yes.
your children as well, which I would imagine they're that way
They
anyways.
are. They certainly are.
So, growing up, people tend to get in trouble at times.
Yes.
Tell us the time you got in trouble.
I'm trying to remember. I don't really remember getting in a lot of trouble. I think I'm trying to remember. I think one time I decided I wanted to wear makeup. And maybe I was 16, and I got on my front porch and I put my lipstick on, and it was red. And my father called me back. I guess he saw me through the door. And so he wiped that lipstick off in one wipe, which nowadays would be called child abuse. But he took it off in one swipe.
Yeah.
So that was the biggest thing I did. I was a good kid.
Yeah, so you didn't get in too much trouble. Yeah. So as we go through life and grow older, we go through a lot of challenges.
Yes.
A lot of difficult things. What would you say is one of the most difficult things that you've been faced with in your lifetime?
I really, the first thing was diagnosed with non-Hodgkin's lymphoma.
Oh, wow.
And then the second challenge was I had 2 strokes. And so that's been health issues been my biggest challenge, nothing else. I'm a strong woman, and
Yeah.
I overcame those. And so I would say those are the most 2 challenging things I had to face in life.
Yeah, and by talking to you, would never know.
Thank
so,
you, thank you.
Definitely a strong person to recover
Yes.
to the level that you have.
Yes,
so
thank you.
that's amazing.
Yes.
I can't really think of too much more that would be more challenging
Yes, that was challenging.
than that, because you're, A, cancer, then 2,
Yes, 2
strokes can be pretty debilitating,
Yes.
debilitating themselves. So if you could go back and change the way you did something or the way you responded to something, change something in your past, what would be something you go back and redo?
Okay, that's a thought. If I could go back and change something that I did in my past, it would probably been not so easy to make unwise decisions as a young person. Young people, we don't think first. We react.
Yeah.
And if I could go back, I would do everything different. And if I wanted to go back, I'd like to go back with the knowledge and wisdom that I have today. Okay, and I would change a lot of things. I opened my mouth too much, or said things I could have kept quiet about, and just the way I reacted to things that people said to me or did to me.
Yeah, yeah. Retrospect.
Yes,
is,
yes.
Or hindsight's 20/20.
Right,
as they say.
right.
Yeah. So another thing that I would consider a challenge is put your 2 children through college on your own.
Yes. Well,
Pretty much.
well, actually, by me working on the college campus, their education was offered to them free.
Oh, wow.
So that's why I stayed there that long, because I wanted them to get a college education, because that was important to me. And so that's what they did, and later on they furthered their education here in Kentucky.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's definitely a good benefit.
Yes.
And you had a grandchild that went through college.
No, my niece, my sister's
niece.
child, she came and lived with us, and she went to college there too.
Wow. So that's which sounds like you liked your job anyways. So I can't really say it's a sacrifice.
No,
but,
it was not.
But still, yeah, you probably could have retired earlier. But
Yes.
yeah, by sticking it out, it helps out the kids, especially with college loans and
Yes.
stuff these days.
It's just very expensive.
very difficult. And you went to college yourself, right?
Indiana Business College.
Okay, so you graduated from there.
Excuse me, yes, sir.
Okay. What year did you graduate?
You're really testing this senior man. I think it was 1966 or 67.
19. Okay.
I had to look at my diploma when I get home.
Yeah. So a time when there's not tons and tons of women going to college.
Right.
So that's something in itself that you were there pursuing business,
Yes.
which again at that time was probably more male dominated and things
Yes.
like that. So
And probably it wasn't that many blacks in Greenfield, Indiana, where I stayed and went to school. So it wasn't that many. So it was challenging. That was challenging.
well, yeah, it's in the 60s. I mean, it was
Yes, it was.
college was almost impossible for an
Yes.
African American.
Yes, it was.
Business was difficult.
Yes.
All those things. So it sounds like you went in and plowed your own path and
Yes.
you made it. So after college, you started working for in Indiana college. A college in
No, I didn't
Indiana?
work in my husband. I was married to my children's father then, and he applied for a job in Washington State and in Alabama, and he received a acceptance at Talladega College in Talladega, Alabama, and we went as a couple, and they hired me, and and then even after we divorced, I stayed on.
Yeah.
Yes,
So he didn't get the job?
Yeah, he got the job.
Oh, okay. I
And
thought
he
they
was-
picked
and-
you over
no,
him.
no, he was there for a while, and once we divorced, I decided to stay there
Sure.
and continue to work there, and that was so that I could afford my kids, education, and that's what we did, and we lived there on the college campus. So
Mm-hmm.
my kids were exposed to nothing but college campus life.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
But it would have been funny if he went for a job interview and you got it and he didn't.
that would have been really funny.
So you belong to the Elk Club.
Yes, it's called the Daughters of the Elks, and it's like a social fraternal organization.
Mhm.
And so it's something like the Eastern Stars or the Masons. It's similar to that.
Yeah. And you were crowned queen.
Yes.
So you're the queen of the Elks.
Yes, sir.
So was that last year? Or
No, that was a long time ago.
Oh, a long time ago. Okay. So are you recognized as former queen or?
I guess if they do documentation or have history, I still have the pictures to prove it. So
Yeah.
I guess so.
Okay. Is that something they do every year? Like,
Yes, they do still do it, but I'm not involved in it anymore.
oh, okay.
Even though they do have the organizations in Kentucky, I'm not involved in it.
Okay. How many years was you involved with that?
I was initiated into it in the late 60s, and I stopped being involved in the 80s.
Okay. So
Long time.
yeah, 20-year commitment to that. I understand you've done some traveling and you
Yes.
did a Caribbean cruise.
Yes.
Did you like it?
I loved it. Except the first night I got seasick.
I was
But then it was one time I wanted to always do something like that, and I did it. And you know how you do something once, I said, I don't want to take all that water no more.
yeah.
Yeah, it's a lot. But it was fun. It was a whole lot of fun.
Yeah. What was your favorite island?
I can't remember that now. If you had asked me that, the memory's not. I have the pictures. If I know you was going to ask me those questions, I would have bought my book.
Yeah. But overall, a great trip.
Great trip.
Good. And we kind of started off talking about your commitment to helping people and helping others. So tell us a little bit about what drives you and maybe situations where you've helped other people.
Okay. What drives me to help other people is because, like I said, I've had some health issues that actually could have broken me down. But I've always considered myself strong and a fighter.
And I went through it, and when I started realizing this when I was in the hospital, that I would see people that was worse off than me or had worse health issues. So I would say something nice to them and say it's going to be all right. You know, I said, you're going to be, if they say, well, I got a bad report, I said, well, it'll be a good report. And I believe in God. And I always say God has the final report. And so then when I came here, I really got more involved in it. I saw people, well, actually, I came here and I was kind of into a self-pity bag about my health.
Yeah.
You know, I was a very independent woman, and now I was dependent on everybody else to take care of me. And so my children and my sister encouraged me to come to the seniors. I said, no, I don't want to go. I don't want to go. So I stayed home for quite a while, not wanting to go. And so after I came here, I looked around. I saw so many people that were worse health condition than me. So I started talking to them. We started walking together, and I was on a walker. And I said, you can do it. And every day I would tell them they could do it. And I would tell them, I said, look at me, I'm going to get rid of this walker. And I parked it one day, and I can walk without it. You know, and by coming here, I have learned good balance. I used to stumble all the time. And I've learned to do things I could not do prior to coming here. And so I like coming here. I see people walking, and some can't walk. I go get their coffee for them or ask them if they need anything. It's almost like I work here because I love it so much.
Yeah.
But that's what I do. And I just see people in the doctor's offices looking depressed and they got a bad report. And I try to tell them, because I had bad reports. You know, and I said, and I tell them about the time my doctor said, he said, have you ever walked through a minefield? I said, no, I haven't been in the service. He said, well, you just went through one and you didn't step on one of them. So I said, if I can do it, he can do it for me, he can do it for you.
Yeah.
And I said, and I have one friend, especially Miss Betty. She was on a walker, and now she's not on a walker.
Good.
And she walks without her cane most days. And so that's I feel like it's my calling.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like you're definitely a light for other people, an inspiration.
I like to be.
If the world was filled with people like you,
It would be nice.
it would be nice, and we wouldn't have. I mean, there's always things that I guess could happen,
Yeah.
but we're not going to have problems that we bring on
Yes,
ourselves.
that's true.
So it was a pleasure to get to meet you.
And same here, Jason.
It's always nice to get to meet somebody that, you know, like I said, has had a full life, had challenges, had successes, and is still around to.
Yes, it's wonderful.
talk about it.
It's a blessing. Yes, it is.
Well, thank you again.
And thank you, Jason.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And we'll be right back. Well, that wraps up our show for Fayette County. We hope you've had a good time, learned a few things, and had a few laughs along the way. I'm your host, Jason Smallwood, and this has been Still Kicking.